All right. Back again. This is part 3. This is our. This video is going to be about our NICU journey from day 1 of Anaya being born, which was September 9th, to today. As of today, she is 45 days old. She was born at 26 weeks. So today she is 33 weeks. And we just wanted to share our experiences with you, as well as give you some pointers, some things to ask, some questions that we didn't think of that we later wish we had thought of, and stuff like that, to kind of make everything a little bit easier. This is still a natural situation. COVID-19 is not making it any better. So baby, what are we talking about today?
So we're going to talk about having a NICU baby during COVID-19. So with Hospital B, there's certain rules and regulations as far as visitation is concerned because of COVID-19. So right now, one parent can visit the child at a time. The NICU is open 24 hours, but only one parent can come in there at a time. So because of that, you're going to have to rely on your nurse for like moral support because your partner cannot be there and family members cannot be there. So you're going to have to rely on your nurses a lot for, to support you during the situation. Now, what we found out since we've been there, a nurse let us know that when COVID first happened and the numbers were going crazy, they were allowing no visitors in the hospital at all. No visitors. So as numbers started to decrease a little bit, that's when they changed it to only moms can visit the NICU, which is not fair, because two-parent households do exist. They said only the moms can visit. And now it's moms and dads can visit. So I guess we're lucky when we had her, because otherwise we would have had a more difficult situation than we did. So because it's a one-parent visitation rule, we have to figure out scheduling so that we both can spend time with her equally. It has been very interesting figuring that out. Also, we have another child here as well that needs just as much as support. So juggling that has been interesting, and I'm pretty sure other NICU parents also are trying to figure out a schedule to see the NICU baby and also be with their children at home as well. So scheduling can be a little bit difficult.
Especially, like my son, he's always asking about his sister. So, it's important to not forget about them. And
they still matter.
We still are constantly checking on him, and I send him pictures and stuff like that, just so he can still feel involved. But he also hasn't seen his sister. And then, of course, the grandparents, they haven't seen her, and, the godparents. It's really just been us. So that adds an extra layer of everybody else reaching out to us constantly, asking questions and checking in on us and stuff like that. And it gets tiresome.
We
sometimes.
appreciate it, but
it's...
And also, just to, because I know there's a lot of people that have quote-unquote normal babies. They don't understand what it's like being a NICU parent. And I know a lot of my NICU moms and dads can relate to the question, when are they coming home? See, as a NICU parent, when they ask you that, you have to remember that they don't really understand. And sometimes you have to figure out a general response. And the general response that we say is, as long as she's on schedule, it'll be around her due date. That's what we say. Otherwise, we shall see. Or you can just come up with a general answer saying, we'll see. We'll see. But, they're just doing it because they care about you. Don't take it personal. They don't understand, and that's okay. They're not going to understand. And so you just have to come up with a general response.
There's, even if you talk to the doctors about it, the doctors also kind of hate the question because doctors never like to feel like they don't know something, and that's one question that they really just have to admit that they don't know.
Because it's not up to them; it's up to the baby.
Right. It's up to the little one. It's they do give you kind of like criterias or benchmarks that they have to pass, and we can go into that maybe in another video, like more in depth. But it's really literally up to each individual child, and they don't really try to compare one child to another child.
Don't do that
because
everybody's different.
Everybody's different.
Yep.
People tolerate certain things at their own pace. So whenever the baby can graduate to one particular level, then that's when they can kind of check that box off.
Mm-hmm.
If it takes one baby, X amount of weeks versus another baby, it's just important to not get too, like if you have twins, for example, if one twin is doing better than the other one, don't get too discouraged, because that's just how it is. That's
Yep.
it.
There's no like it's a foundation they have to follow. Like there's a schedule, but it's up to the baby.
Yeah.
It's up to the baby. Whatever the baby wants to do, it's up to them.
They do say they're on schedule, but that just means they're doing as well as most other babies.
Right.
That's all that really means.
Yeah.
If they're not doing, that just means that they're not doing anything way out of abnormal for
them to be concerned.
Yeah.
And as a NICU parent, as long as they say we're not concerned or this seems abnormal, then look. I mean, because they're learning to be a human, so they're going to have hiccups. It's going to happen. As long as the doctors say we're not concerned, then just relax.
Yeah. They're still supposed to be in the room at this point, so they're not supposed to be trying to breathe on their own. They're not supposed to be trying to eat on their own. So this is very hard for the baby, and some babies pick it up faster than others. So don't get discouraged, and just keep pushing forward. So with that, one thing that we noticed that they didn't warn us about is the blue light special, or the blue light treatment, which, and if you saw the last video, I'll put a picture up again in this video. The blue light treatment basically assists your baby with liver function, so they don't become jaundiced and have liver disease. Because like I just said, that newborn baby is working harder than they should have to do. So the blue light treatment is just one treatment that they give the babies to help them develop in their own time. But it just looks real weird the first time you see them. Like I said, we didn't have any communication, any warning or anything.
We just came in and this blue light is on.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. And it literally looks like they're cooking your baby under a blue light. It's very weird. When Anaya first came out, they had her wrapped in like saran wrap, but it was just to help her keep her warm. They did tell me about that, but they didn't tell me about the blue light. So just be prepared for seeing something like that. Also be prepared to have to scrub in every single time.
Every single time.
It gets rather annoying, but you have to scrub in.
Even if you go to the bathroom,
And
you got to scrub in.
Yeah, you got to scrub in.
And put on a new robe. You got to put on a robe.
Yeah. So at our hospital, we were assigned, well, all NICU babies are assigned a social worker. So our particular social worker kind of hipped us to Social Security benefits. So that's another thing to check out for. And because Anaya was born underweight, she qualifies for some money from the government. How much that money is, we're not really sure.
Because it's income based.
Right. But it should be something. And it's not something that most people knew about. I have a child already, and I didn't know about it. And
so also while you're in the hospital, they're going to, if you're interested in breastfeeding the child, your NICU baby, and I would highly recommend that you do decide to breastfeed your baby, they're going to have a lactation specialist come and talk to you to like show you how to compress your boobs to see if you can actually produce milk. Because remember, we have a NICU baby and she came early, so my body wasn't ready yet. So I had to basically force my body to make it a little bit earlier than what it was ready for. So she came in to teach me how to pump, how to try to get the milk out. She gave me some pointers. Also, they're going to recommend a hospital grade pump that you use when you first go home to get as much milk out as you possibly can. because again, your boobs aren't ready to pump milk. You have to teach it to pump milk. So you can rent it, or you can buy it for like 2,000 some odd dollars if you choose. I chose to rent it, and if I could do anything over again, I would only rent it for like a week because that's how long I only needed it. So my insurance company, and I believe I would double check to see if your insurance company offers it. You can get a free breast pump through your insurance company. So I used the hospital grade pump for about a week, and then my pump came in the mail, and so I just thought to myself, well, if I'm going to be using this pump, the one that was sent to me, let me practice with this pump. So I basically just been using that pump this whole time, and sent back the hospital grade pump. I didn't really need it, but if you need something while the child is still in a NICU and your pump is in the mail, you have something to provide for the baby. But yes, breast milk is extremely important because you can give the baby the max amount of nutrients that they're going to need during this NICU stay. So even though you may not pump a lot of milk, you should still stay at it so that you can give it to the baby because they're going to need it.
And they also, one form that I signed while my wife was just recuperating from the C-section was for donor milk. And I mean, if anybody has donated blood before, it goes through similar screening process for the donor milk. But it's basically, other mothers that breastfeed, they donate milk to the hospital for situations like this. Because just like Anaya is basically being jump-started, so to speak, in her life, my wife's body is also being jump-started when it comes to milk production. So she's not really, unfortunately, able to keep up with everything. But the donor milk comes in right there. We would prefer, of course, it be ours, but beggars can't be choosers. And that donor milk is still better than formula at this point. And I believe that a lot of the reason why Anaya is doing as well as she is doing at this point is because she's being breastfed, so to speak. So definitely I understand some people might feel a certain type of way about accepting something from somebody they don't know, but it's no different than if you go into the hospital and you have a surgery and you get blood from somewhere. It's the same thing with the milk. That just like that blood was screened, that milk is also screened, and they're very, very strict about being able to accept something. So also for anybody else out there that is breastfeeding, if they find it on their heart to donate milk, you can. It's an option. You can help out other people that are in similar situations. If you have excess milk that's in storage or something like that, they freeze it and it lasts for, I believe, like 6 months or something like that, frozen. So that's an option out there for anybody that's watching this as well. So while my wife was recuperating from the C-section, I went to see Anaya the first time, and I wasn't really aware of the social worker. But through the process, we were going back and forth, and we set up a schedule. And like we mentioned before, it is very weird because we still have to work. We actually decided to wait until Anaya comes home to go on maternity leave. That way, we can really, really fully bond with her then at that point and really get to know her at that point versus taking the time now and not really being able to hold her and stuff like that.
Right. And work for me has distracted me. That way I'm not like looking on camera or calling all the time and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have, I work for myself. I have my own company. But my wife, she has, 8 to 4:30 hours. And we also live with no traffic, it's about 25, 30 minutes. But with DMV traffic, it's about 35 to 40 minutes away from the hospital. So, about 2 weeks in of this situation.
And mind you, we're still trying to figure out a schedule.
Yeah, this is still fresh. She's still, hurting and on pain meds from the surgery itself, and everything is. We're just trying to figure stuff out. So
we're on day 14.
Day 14. We've at this point
8 or 9 days out of Anaya's
life. Right. And my wife gets pulled aside by the social worker. So, baby, what did the social worker have to ask you?
So the social worker was constantly calling me, and I kept missing her phone calls because I'm at work, and I get there and she pulls me in her office, and she decides to ask me if they were concerned that we were distancing ourselves from our child. So I was, confused, like, distancing ourselves from our child. Last time I checked, we visited more than 60% of her life at this point because, she's 14 days old. We were out there 8 or 9 days out of the 14 days. So I'm a little bit confused, and I'm just like, no, we're not distancing ourselves from the child. And just like, concerned that, that I guess they, want to make sure that NICU parents are adjusting with the baby and realizing that they're there and they have to see them and stuff like that. I guess they wanted to make sure that our mental was okay. And so my husband comes in, and she also asks him the same question. You know, have you guys been? Are you guys okay? We just want to make sure you're not distancing yourself from your child. And me and him are extremely puzzled. We are extremely confused and upset because we're just thinking to ourselves, okay, are we not good enough? Are we not adequate enough parents? What are we missing here? What do y'all consider as good enough to be with your child? What is good for you? We were really confused because not only do we live 30 to 40 minutes away, because there's a one parent rule, this trip to be with Anaya is about 3 to 4 hours. Altogether 3 to 4 hours. For us to get there, be with her, go home, we talked about 3 to 4 hours. So, and on top of that, we both working. So we're just trying to figure this out. And then for her to say that, we were just really confused, like what is the problem? So he just left Anaya. He did his visit with Anaya, and I'm about to go in after I talk to the social worker. I'm going in to visit my child, and then at the same time, just coincidentally, the nurse says to me, "Oh, you see what happens?" Because I guess her vitals were doing okay. Her oxygen was, she lowered her oxygen. And she said, "You see what happens when you visit more often? Her vitals start to look good." Now, keep in mind that we are 2 weeks in this situation. I am still extremely sensitive, okay? Because, I just had a baby, and I'm still sensitive. And for her to make that comment, I can understand if I was a normal person, quote unquote. A normal person could be like, "Oh, okay, her comment wasn't harsh or anything like that," but someone that is still, healing from everything, her comment was seen as insensitive. I didn't appreciate it, and I was extremely upset. On top of that, my baby didn't care for her as well. I can tell my baby didn't care for her.
That particular nurse, yeah.
So the next day, after I called my mom and fussed and cried and everything. Everyone suggested that we call the social worker the next day and have a talk with her, and we did. And we asked, we're really confused because we've been 9 days out of the, at this point, 15 days she's been alive. What is prompting you all to ask if we are distancing ourselves from our child? And she proceeds to tell us that a doctor said that they haven't seen us in the NICU. So whoever this doctor is decides to ask a couple of nurses, who knows what nurses they decided to ask, have they seen us? And those particular nurses said, "No, we haven't seen the parents." So because of that precedes a conversation with the social worker asking us, have we distanced ourselves from our child? So then we start to go into, okay, so that's not the case. Y'all need to miscommunication again, and we've had this conversation about miscommunication before. Y'all need to get it together because that's not the case. And mind you, because of COVID, they're rotating nurses, they're rotating doctors. So whoever the doctor is, whoever the nurses are, we may not, pass each other because of our schedule. But that doesn't mean that we're not there.
Not to mention, the doctors and nurses work on 12-hour shifts.
Mm-hmm.
So they work 3 12-hour shifts per week, and then they're off. So just depending on what part of that shift, or that a particular nurse is on, you might not see that particular nurse for another week or two.
Right.
So for one person to only ask one or two other people, not even the whole department.
Because if you're going to ask, you might as well ask everybody.
And then on top of that, come to find out, after we did a little bit more investigating, come to find out that the social worker had also checked the NICU sign-in logs.
And so we told themselves about the sign-in logs because they weren't making us sign anything. We could literally show them our identification, and they was like, "Oh, you good? Y'all go ahead."
All you gotta do is show them
whatever
their badge
whatever
to get
it
in,
is,
and then they just have
a good day.
So because we typically go to the hospital at the same time every week because we have a certain schedule, the guard at the front door of the hospital, he recognizes me, so he doesn't even check my temperature anymore to go into the hospital. I haven't had my temperature checked to get into the hospital for the past 2.5, 3 weeks. Then the security guard at the front desk, I show my identification as well, and they just wave me past. Then when I get up to the NICU floor, I show my identification, and they just let me in. So I don't sign, to this day, in 45 days, I haven't signed the NICU log, not once. Now this is after the conversation.
We've had the conversation to let them know about themselves.
Right, and they said that they were going to make sure that this changes. So me being the type of person I am, I'm testing the system to see if they're actually fixing it, and so far you're not fixing it. I can literally, if I find a piece of whatever it is that I have to get into this particular hospital, I can literally just walk all the way up to the hospital, and just because they know who I am, because I've been there every day for the past 45 days, they don't check my temperature or anything. They just let me go on through.
And I don't care if, look,
so all of your COVID-19 stuff, nobody, your hospital staff is not even following it.
No.
They're just not. And I understand why, because they also probably work 12-hour shifts, and if they see me today and they see me yesterday, they're probably going to see me tomorrow. They know I'm going to be there as long as
that's still no excuse, though. That's still no excuse. If it's in your job description that says you need to do something, then you need to do it for those 12 hours that you are working. That's what it is. So that's the way he's handling it. And the way I'm handling it is after, because we don't do social worker, don't do none of that. Unless you coming at me to give me like assistance, then fine. But don't ever come at me talking about, are you distancing yourself from your child? After that, that just set off a red flag for me. That just let me know I need to move a certain way and trust no one. That's what it is. So now, what I do is I'm always calling. I've always been calling. If there are days that we don't visit, or even days that we do visit, I always call. But I wasn't writing anything down. So after that conversation with the social worker, I have a log. I literally write everything down. I write what time I call. I write what time we visit. I write what time we park the car. I write if I even ride the subway to go see her. I write what we did for that day. I write down what I discussed with the nurse. I write down what he discussed with the nurse. I write down what time I called. I write down her vitals. I write down the breast milk I provide to them every single time that we go up there. I keep all my parking tickets. Everything. Because we're not having it. Like I told the social worker, I hope that we don't ever have this conversation ever again. Because this miscommunication situation is out of control. Because this type of situation, if we didn't carry it how we carry it now, it can lead to something else that's really unnecessary. So, because of what happened, that's how I've been carrying the situation. So ever since that conversation, I literally have a log of everything. And for my NICU moms and NICU dads out there, even if a social worker doesn't even ask you certain questions like that, just understand that they're watching you.
So, my wife joined a NICU group on Facebook that just helps similar parents, and we get to talk and exchange stories and stuff like that. And a mother expressed something very interesting, which is another reason why she's been writing stuff down. So, Faye, spill the tea that we also.
So, I was reading the young lady posted saying that her child was underweight. I'm going to assume, I guess she was just breastfeeding the child and they were underweight or something. And because the child was underweight, she got, I don't know what happened or who called CPS, but somebody called CPS on her because the child was underweight. So that let me know I'm moving in the right direction. And that also lets me know that even after our baby comes home, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. So just all my NICU parents out there, as soon as your baby gets in, as soon as you come home, start writing everything down. Start writing everything down because they are watching you. The nurses are watching you. They're watching how you're visiting. Also, when you visit, you let the nurse know every single time, whoever's on the next shift or whatever the case may be, you let them know every single time when you plan on coming back to come see your baby. You see your child as much as you possibly can. You write down everything that happens. Everything. Because if you didn't write it down, it never happened. Sign the book as well. I signed the book every single time. Every single time. We already know how you carry it. But it's two different perspectives because he's doing it a certain way to test the system to show proof to them that they're not following their rules, so that next time they be able to carry it a certain way and correct their errors. You want to talk about Anaya's journey so far?
So part of the reason why I decided to put this shirt on, my Army fatigues, is because Daddy's little girl has been a fighter since her first attempted breath. If you all recall from last video, when she was born, she was gasping for air, attempting to breathe, and that gave the doctors a lot of good hope because that showed that even at least on the subconscious level, her brain knew that she was supposed to be breathing, and that steroid shot that they gave her was actually working. She's a fighter, and all the nurses love her. She might not love all the nurses back.
But they love her.
They love her.
She has a fan base.
She has a lot to say, and she has no problem saying it.
Nope.
You might not understand what it is that she's saying.
But you get it.
But yeah, you understand that she has a very strong spirit about her.
Yes.
And that gives all the nurses and all the doctors lots of hope because they know that she won't be there very long.
Yeah, the feisty ones go home.
Yeah. And actually, as of today, she just started a breathing trial.
Started yesterday.
Yesterday, yes. She started a breathing trial yesterday. And basically what the breathing trial is first of all, to qualify for the breathing trial, Anaya has to be a certain weight, and she had to be at 21% oxygen on her CPAP breathing mask for 24 hours. For those who don't know, 21% means that a machine was giving Anaya 21% of the oxygen, and Anaya was doing the rest on her own. So she was doing that for 24 hours. So the doctors decided to do a room air test where they basically just take all the breathing machines off, and Anaya fends for herself 100% on room air for as long as she can. So yesterday when they tried it, she did it for an hour and 15 minutes before she started to have issues, and they had to put her back on. And as of literally right now, when my wife just looked at her phone, it's been 4.5 hours.
No, 5.
It's been 5 hours now?
It's been 5.
So she's been breathing for 5 hours all by herself.
Oh, and keep in mind that we can see what Anaya is doing because our hospital offers a camera system that we can look in to see the baby. So it's not like we can't talk to her and she can't talk to us, obviously. You can't hear anything, but you can see your child. And that's enough, that's something.
Right.
So we can just log in on our phone and, see our baby. And we just checked on her, and she's been breathing on her own for 5 hours. So she did an hour and 15 minutes yesterday, and she's still going 5 hours. Anaya does not like that CPAP machine. She hates it. And we think that she figured out that, something's going on for them to allow her to breathe on her own. And you can tell that she's doing what she has to do to come home.
It clicked. I think that one experience yesterday, because we've held her without the CPAP on before, and she was fine, but that was literally for like 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there, whatever.
That much.
And she just, does little things, and so I think she just realized, okay, I have to do this to get this out of my face. And then she was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna do that, And then as long as I do that, you won't put this on. And so like when we talked to the nurse a little while before we started this video, the nurse told us that as long as Anaya is holding her own, then she won't have the mask in. So that's it. Like, so here we are, like I said, at day 45, and she's, as of right now, on 100% oxygen. She still has some weight to gain, of course, but that's going to be an up and down battle. It's just their bodies are so small. Any small changes literally is the difference between gaining 55 grams and losing 55 grams.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how they weigh them at this point. When she was born, she was 1 pound, 7.4 ounces, but they really weigh that in grams. They tell us, the nurses and doctors say pounds and ounces to us because that's how the general public understands things. But if you talk to them, you hear them say like 1,300 grams or whatever.
And you can just, if they tell you how many grams, you can just do a quick Google search and find out how much it is in pounds and ounces.
But that's how small she is. But still, everything is looking real good for her so far.
We've been truly blessed. We haven't experienced a surgery, scare, or anything like that so far. She's only had to have medicine like sodium chloride, vitamin D,
some iron.
Yeah, iron, caffeine.
Yeah, you know, stuff like
Simple
that.
Stuff. She did have a EKG scan done because she had her heart rhythm. Her heart rhythm started to do something different, and they wanted to run an EKG on her to make sure she was okay, and she was, thank God. But in the process of the EKG stickies are really hard to get off sometimes. They're really sticky. So what happens is, because the baby's skin is so sensitive, and it may happen, you may experience it's going to happen to your child. I hope not, but it's a possibility. EKG stickies may rip their skin off and leave a boo-boo. So because I joined the support group, I knew that it was a possibility it could happen. I just wish that I would have found out a different way that day. The nurse forgot to tell me. Were you there? Yeah.
Communication.
Forgot to tell you as well. And the reason I found out was the doctor came in to just listen to her heartbeat and stuff like that, check her vitals, see if she's okay, and turned her around on her back and saw it, and I saw it, and the doctor asked me, and I'm asking her. So, but it happens. Hopefully your nurse doesn't forget to tell you, but it happens. And as long as they, keep it, they have to keep the wound open so that the air can help heal the skin. But as long as they clean it and checking on it, then the wound should be okay. But
this is also around the same time that we were able to stop wearing gloves to touch.
Yes, we stopped. They said that we could stop wearing gloves after she hit 1,000 grams.
Yeah. So it was very frustrating. Having to not only scrub in and put on a gown and stuff just to get into the NICU.
And you gotta put on gloves.
And you gotta put on gloves, so you're not even really touching your child.
No.
But once we were able to take off the gloves, then we started to learn that babies, especially small babies like that, have to be touched a certain way.
Yes.
All NICU babies are assigned an occupational therapist. And that sounds very funny for a baby that doesn't even know how to breathe on their own all the way to have, but basically what they do is they move the baby around and kind of like stimulate their muscles and keep their bones and stuff from getting stiff, but they also teach the parents how to grab and how to touch and restrict and stuff the baby to calm them down if they're stressed, and just do bonding stuff with them that the baby likes. When the baby is in your womb, they're really constricted and they like that. They like pressure. So while we still had the gloves on, we weren't really aware that we're like stuff that we were doing, Anaya probably really didn't like. And we were actually stressing her out, but we didn't really know about it.
We thought it was cute, like when she would stretch and do certain things. If she didn't cry, we wouldn't know that she didn't like it.
Right.
But there were cues that she was letting us know that she didn't like something, but of course we didn't know.
Yeah. Because it wasn't always crying, it was sometimes stretching. We thought she was stretching because she just woke up from a nap or something like that, but she was basically like trying to move away and whatever it was. So the occupational therapist came in, and she kind of showed some tips, and how to do restriction, which is when you kind of like fold them up and hold them down. And we were always, for me, I'm a man, um, 275 pounds, and I got this little, not even 2 pound thing, and she's still like, yeah, she wants pressure, and I'm like, how much pressure? Like, I don't want to.
Don't want to crush
I don't
it.
want to squish this little thing. Like, what do you mean? And she's like, just hold her, and you just basically have to hold them in place and kind of
Yeah.
like push down and just hold them there. And if anybody has anxiety or anything, it's similar to like heavy blankets or weighted blankets.
Yeah.
If anybody uses something like that to sleep and you put it on you and it just feels like something is just squeezing on you, it's the same concept for the NICU babies. They just want someone to kind of fold them up and hold them, and they'll eventually calm down. So she taught us that, but it was still frustrating because we're doing this back and forth, like only one parent in at the same time. I had to call my wife on the phone so that she can hear all the information because that therapist was about to leave. So we had to make sure, because we basically learned at this point that we can't really count on them to give us the same information each time. Some nurses don't like to repeat themselves, so they'll give me an abbreviated version because they just gave her the longer version. So that's something to watch out for if you're going in separately, or if you're not around. You might have to corner them and just be like, no, you want to talk to me right now.
Yeah, and I've had to fuss a few times letting them know, look, if you're going to give one parent the details, give the other parent the details. Because like I said, 2-parent households do exist. So both parents matter. They matter.
I've experienced many situations, unfortunately, where I'm kind of, not all the nurses do it. We have our favorites, and our favorites talk to us. But there's been certain situations that have happened, and it kind of seemed like the nurse kind of discounted me. There was one situation more recently where I was there. Anaya's nurse went to lunch, so someone was there kind of just supervising Anaya while her actual nurse was at lunch, and Anaya threw up, and it caused a whole bunch of other situations. I knew about it, and that nurse knew about it because we were there when it happened. When Anaya's nurse came back from lunch, me and my wife switched. The nurse that was supervising Anaya actually told her regular nurse, but that regular nurse didn't tell my wife about it at all.
No, what she did was she said it like the medical term for what happened. She didn't just say Anaya threw up. She said the medical term.
Yeah.
Now, what you're going to notice is throughout this journey, you're going to notice they're going to throw a lot of medical terms at you, a lot of stuff at you, and you're going to be like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. And so what you can do is you can Google it, the terms, to do more research. But when they say those terms, don't feel bad to ask them to repeat themselves and explain in simple terms what it means. Like, I don't remember the word she even used, but just say Anaya threw up.
Yeah.
She used another word. And because the nurses, they see this stuff on a daily basis. And the way that she presented the situation as if it was a regular thing. And I heard what the medical term is I heard the word, but her energy didn't say it was concerning. But let that be something that I determine. Let me figure out if it is concerning or not. Maybe I want to be concerned. Because at this point, Anaya was changing stages of her growing up. She was changing from the tube being fed into her intestines to now the tube being fed into her stomach. Which is a good thing because now she's upgrading to get ready for the bottle. This is good. That means she's growing up. But because she's entering a new stage, that means that she's going to have new reactions. And I just need to know what these reactions are going to be. And spitting up, because it's called an OG tube. The tube is in her stomach, she's going to spit up. They have to figure out the right combination of food, the timing, and the position to put the tube in so that she doesn't throw up, which they have at this point. But at that time, because it was a new thing, in the way that she said it, I wasn't concerned because I didn't know I needed to be concerned. Until I got in the car after visiting her, she threw up. And let's just say I did not react very well to that. And as soon as I got home, I called the NICU and said, y'all going to have to explain to me what happened with my child. And so we had a nice conversation, and I let them know, again, I'm going to need y'all to let me and him know in detail what happened with our baby. So that was a very interesting experience.
Yeah. So, like my wife said, it's been quite a few times where the nurses and doctors will give a medical term for certain things, and because they see it every day,
It's just regular
it's
delivery.
just regular to them.
Yeah.
But it's important information to know, because this particular day that we're talking about, where Anaya threw up, um, it was stressful for her to
Yeah, she
do
didn't
that.
have a good day.
And had my wife had known about throw up versus the medical term, my wife wouldn't have done kangaroo care.
Kangaroo care is when the child and the parent have a bonding time situation. So you kind of make a pouch with your baby, and you do skin to skin. And so this has been proven to help the child's vitals and to help them come home faster. On top of that, you get to hold your baby. I mean, uh, I didn't get a chance to. We started kangaroo care with Anaya 2 weeks. 2 weeks after she was born. 2 weeks that she's been born, we was on gloves. And so this was my first time after 2 weeks of like just holding her, and it was a very emotional experience. Um, yeah, that's what kangaroo care is. You hold the baby skin to skin, like you coddle them like in your chest, and you like wrap them up in the blanket, keep them nice and warm. That's what kangaroo care is. The day that you come home, well, around the time that you're going to come home when you're being discharged from the hospital, they're going to give you some packets and stuff like that. In that packet is going, and then also you're going to fill out a birth certificate application to get your birth certificate. Yeah, so read your packet. They'll also in your packet give you NICU. They'll also give you like a NICU support groups that you can join. In the packet, they'll also give you a list of pediatricians in that packet as well. And also they'll also give you like chat lines you can talk to for postpartum. They're going to give you a postpartum test. Speaking of postpartum test,
Talk about that.
so so the postpartum test. So after my 6 week appointment, my 6 week post op appointment, they gave me this postpartum test and asked you like, are you smiling? Are you how do you like basically like how are you feeling? And I answered the question as honest as I possibly can. But this situation, I have a NICU baby in a hospital. It's stressful. It is. And I answered the questionnaire as honest as I possibly could. And they're like, I guess my test scores said that maybe I'm borderline depressed or something. And they were just like, Miss So and so, we're just concerned. We don't want to make sure you're okay. We want to, if you, I kind of felt like maybe they were trying to put me on pills to help me if I was depressed. Made me feel like they were trying to paint me as a depressed mom. And I'm just like, I'm not depressed. I'm just stressed out. What NICU parent isn't stressed out? I'm just saying that I'm not in a normal situation, so I'm not going to have normal feelings. Now, of course, talking to somebody, even if you're not a NICU parent, it can be good for you. I mean, even if you just, you're not having any problems and you want to talk to somebody, of course it can help anybody out. But do I think that it needs to be to the point I need like pills? No. The reason why I feel this way is because I'm a major. I've been a psych major for a while now. So I kind of understand what they're trying to say to me. I can speak that language. I don't speak NICU, but I can speak that language. So I can, it's not to the point that it's stopping me from functioning daily. It's not to that point. I can function. And on top of that, with the social worker that happened when Anaya was 2 weeks old, I'm just like, okay, y'all. Okay. So, like I said, I trust no one. Sometimes, like, I've been trying to go up there on weekends to spend like 5 or 6 hours with her, like participating with her cares, doing kangaroo care with her, giving her a bath, spend as much time as I possibly can with her, and he'll go on his separate times and spend time with her as well. I get jealous, but it is what it is.
So the main thing that I wanted everybody to kind of remember and keep in mind is this is depending on where your particular baby is. This is potentially, well, for us anyway, this is going to be a 3-month long journey. From September 9th, she was originally due on December 11th. So we were originally looking at 3 months worth of what we're currently dealing with.
At least.
At least.
Yeah, more could be less.
And we're halfway through the original estimate. And the main thing to kind of remember is to not get too excited. I've heard stories of NICU parents that, it took, they thought that the baby was going to go home 3 or 4 times, and each time their heart was broken. I heard a story, once about actually one of your co-workers. They got all the way up to the hospital with the car seat and everything, get into the hospital, something happened, and like I mentioned before, there's like benchmarks that the baby has to qualify for. They call it graduation for a reason. Out of the NICU, they call it that your child graduated. And they do that because there's certain criteria that they have to meet before they go home, and if your baby fails certain criteria, then you basically have to start all the way over. So just keep level-headed, keep up your faith, stay strong, lean on your support systems, whatever that may be, because this is very exhausting. My wife breastfeeds, and she on top of that, and working and dealing with everything as a wife, and keeping up with my madness and everything like that. And then from my perspective as well, dealing with my son, dealing with my company, driving back and forth to the hospital, trying to keep her spirits up, and trying to, deal with my son to make sure he's okay with everything, and he's dealing with school and COVID-19 is going, it's a lot. It's difficult for everybody involved, and that's another reason why we wanted to do these videos, so that our family can kind of see where we are, and they can get a very long, in-depth, update without simple text messages or phone calls every once in a while, because we might be busy doing something else.
Yeah.
We might be on our way to the hospital or something. We might be talking to the nurse or something like that. We might not have time to shoot a text message back or something every single time. So for our personal family, we love you. We appreciate you. And for our YouTube subscribers, thank you for joining. We have more topics that we want to cover. And we're also going to do, more updates on Anaya as things unfold. But until then,
bye.
No way, I'm gonna give